Hey ChatGPT, build an AWS cloud project for me.
Sure thing. As an AI language model, I'm always up for a challenge.
Alright, so the other day I built an AWS cloud project entirely using ChatGPT, and it was actually a lot easier than I expected. All I had to do was type in a few prompts, write a few requirements, and ChatGPT provided me with the exact step-by-step instructions I needed to build out the project. Of course, I still had to go into my AWS console and follow the instructions step by step, but ChatGPT made it a lot easier for me to understand the process and fix any errors that came up. It was almost like having a personal tutor that was sitting right next to me. And so in this video, I'll be walking you through the 5 steps to build any cloud project you'd like and how ChatGPT can help you along the way. These steps will completely transform the way you build things on the cloud, so make sure you watch this video all the way to the end to know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, let's get into it. So first things first, we have to come up with a project idea. Maybe you're looking to gain practical experience, solve a specific problem, or just explore a new AWS service. Whatever the case though, I know that finding the right idea can be a very tough first step. If you're not too sure where to begin, ChatGPT can help you brainstorm. You can ask for project ideas that involve specific AWS services or even emerging tech trends. For instance, if you're interested in machine learning, you can ask something like, give me a cool AWS machine learning project idea. Or if you want to host a website on AWS, you can ask, what are some ways I can launch my own website in the cloud? The key here is to be as specific as possible in order to get the most tailored suggestions. But at this point, you might be asking, Lucy, what if I have absolutely no idea what I want to build? Well, in that case, you can ask ChatGPT for something more broad. For example, give me a list of AWS project ideas suitable for beginners. You can then ask it to narrow down the options based on specific criteria, such as how long the project will take and how complex the project is. The goal here is to find a project idea that is not only aligned with your skill level, but is also something you find interesting. Personally for me, I really like trying out new food and taking photos of my meals. And so I might choose to create a 3-tier web application that displays photos of my favorite local restaurants. But yeah, once you've come up with the project idea, the next step is to figure out the technology and architecture for building it out. Now, let's say I've decided to build out the web application that can help me track photos of my food from local restaurants. I would then ask ChatGPT what are AWS services I should use to design a 3-tier architecture for a food photo tracking web application. By asking these types of questions to ChatGPT, it can help you identify the right AWS services for each layer of your architecture. In my case, it might suggest that I use Amazon EC2 instances for the compute layer, RDS for the database, and S3 for storing food photos. However, it's not just about picking the right services. You also need to think about how these services will communicate and interact together. And this brings us to step number 3, which is to generate an in-depth tutorial. With your idea and architecture in place, you'll need step-by-step instructions you can follow to actually build out your project. Now, this step is kind of tricky because a lot of times ChatGPT doesn't provide very detailed tutorials. For example, if you ask, give me a detailed tutorial for my project, it might just give you an overview of the steps you should take. This happens because it might be assuming that you already know how to set up certain things or have the code ready for certain parts of the application. But if you're a beginner or even just new to using a particular AWS service, you'll want ChatGPT to break it down for you. So the trick here is to ask for specifics. Instead of asking for a tutorial on the entire project, ask for one on setting up the EC2 instances or just the S3 buckets. Also make sure you mention that you wanted to provide as much detail as possible. By asking ChatGPT to break down the specific steps, you'll get a much more in-depth guide that will help make the process a lot less intimidating. Okay, now we're at the fun part, which is to actually build out the project. At this point, you've got your idea, you've got your architecture, and you have a step-by-step tutorial to follow. It's now time to put all of that planning into action. So get ready to pull up your AWS console and start configuring the services. But wait, let's be real here. Even with the best laid out plans, chances are you'll probably run into some challenges. Maybe you're not too sure how to properly configure an auto-scaling group, or you have no idea how to check if your VPC is secure. This is where ChatGPT can come in once again. You can ask for help on specific questions and get real-time advice on how to navigate through them, just like having a personal tutor that's sitting right next to you. Some examples include, how do I set up an auto-scaling group for my EC2 instances? Or how do I check if my VPC is secure? By asking these types of questions to ChatGPT, you'll be able to tackle each challenge head-on, hopefully without feeling too stuck or overwhelmed. Alright, step number 5 is to troubleshoot and fix errors. Let's say you built out your project but you're now facing some issues. These could be issues related to AWS services or even code errors. ChatGPT can help with both. For issues related to AWS services, you can ask specific questions to get to the root cause. For example, how do I resolve high CPU utilization on my EC2 instances? And for errors related to your code, you can directly input the error message into ChatGPT and see what suggestions it has for you. Personally, for me, I think the best way to learn is to make mistakes. So running into errors when building a project shouldn't be seen as a bad thing as long as you're able to fix them. And this hands-on experience isn't just about completing a project. It can also help you build a portfolio of work to help you maximize your chances of getting hired into a cloud role. Speaking of finding a job, I know that trying to start a career in tech can feel pretty overwhelming, but there are some platforms that can make this process easier for you. I'd like to introduce you to today's video sponsor, careerist.com, an online platform that offers immersive programs in QA automation, sales engineering, tech support, and more. Even if you don't have any experience or background in tech, Careerist can help you learn everything required to land your first tech job. They recommend starting off with the basics and enrolling in this manual QA course. So how it works is you attend live classes, receive one-on-one guidance from a personal mentor, and get real-world experience through a remote internship. Their students also get access to a simplified job search system, and you can read about some of their experiences on the website. If you'd like to check out their programs, I've included a link in the description below for 10% off any course. Thank you Careerist.com for sponsoring this video. Alright, this brings us to the end of the video. Please give it a like if you found it helpful, and if you're looking for more ways to learn AWS Cloud using ChatGPT, make sure you check out this video over here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.